Hey friends, so excited to have you join us on this podcast today. Of course, we just witnessed the inauguration of President Trump, and Pastor Andrew and I are talking a lot about leadership and the nature of leadership and what good leadership looks like and what bad leadership looks like. You're not going to want to miss this podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Ron Johnson Discipleship Podcast.
We are especially happy to be with you on this day. We have so much, we're almost giddy happy on this day. We've got so much great stuff to talk about. Obviously, we had a massive inauguration and a shift of leadership. But what our listeners need to know is I was going to surprise them all this morning because I got blessed a couple Sundays ago, and it was a mysterious plastic bag that was handed to me. I'm always worried about mysterious plastic bags.
Yeah, I was going to be like,
my sniffer's not as good as they used to. Yeah, I didn't know what was in there. Yeah. Pastors don't always get nice plastic bags. Sometimes they're nice. Sometimes there's
body parts.
Yeah. I don't know what's in there.
Dead rat.
Anyway, so I was anxious to kind of unpackage it afterwards, and it turns out it was a red MAGA hat, but it wasn't just a MAGA hat. It was a MAGA hat with blonde Trump hair coming out everywhere. I'm like, I actually looked for it this morning. Like, where did that hat go? I was going to surprise everybody. Those of you that are watching the podcast, it would have been quite an accent piece to our conversation this morning. Anyway, you might see that in weeks to come because we have a lot to talk about
on a Sunday morning. My question is, how do you lose something that's so obvious?
Because
big red and Trump hair.
Because it was probably still in some, plastic bag somewhere. And our family has lots of plastic bags. We have a lot of activity.
You got a lot going on in your household.
Anyway, I have to find Marion because she's probably wearing
it right now.
She's out grocery shopping in her Aldi store with her MAGA hat on with the blonde hair out the back. Anyway, lots to talk about. Hey, the other reason, and Matthew, our producer, will also celebrate with me on this. We are abused, mistreated, decades-long Bears fans. I mean, you talk about a reason to please give us some hope. And you all know the Bears coach got released. Good guy, but not producing. But anyway, so we're all looking with anticipation who is going to be the replacement. And, this is why we're so excited. Chicago is known for defense, not offense. Mm-hmm. And of course, we got the number one quarterback, number one player in the draft, and we're all excited about the future and the possibility. But you got to hire somebody that knows how to do offense, and that's something Chicago's not really known for. We're all about defense. So we got the head offensive coordinator for the most offensive juggernaut team in all of the NFL, which is the Detroit Lions, all right? Ben Johnson. And so you could, yes, thank you. So Matthew and I are texting, and so in addition to this massive change that's happening and sweeping America, we're having massive change in Chicago because it looks like we have an offensive-minded genius who might take us. I went to one game in the last 2 decades, all right?
True Bears fan.
Yeah, well, normally because it's Sunday games, and that doesn't work for me. But and because I'm cheap, and because I want to make sure I can sit at home and watch them lose. Why spend hundreds of dollars?
That's true.
But my son blessed me this year to go see a Thursday night. It was the day after Christmas, Thursday night game against the Seattle Seahawks, all right? It ended 6-3, and we sat through rain the entire game to watch 9 points scored in the NFL. I mean, this was just an absolute. I mean, it was great to be with my son, but I just sat there watching.
Which son were you with?
Johnny.
Oh.
In fact, he treated me to the tickets, so we had a lot of fun together.
Nice.
But anyway, we're talking about leadership, and you brought up a good point. You asked an important question about this coach. It's great to know offenses, but can he lead?
Yeah, we have so many situations in which a great salesperson gets promoted to be a sales manager, and all of a sudden their leadership collapse because it's a completely different skill set.
Yeah, they're good at being the one-on-one, the salesperson,
Yeah.
but not managing a bunch of
It's
sales.
a different skill set.
And and in the NFL or any coach like that, you have to manage the culture, the team, the morale. They talk about coaches losing the locker room. So I'm just excited though. I think the future's bright. He's young. He's proven himself. And but again, back to leadership. Let's talk a little bit about the inauguration because
hold on before we get there. I think we need to right now. We need a trademark. Make the Bears great again. Hats. Has anyone patented that? Let's make sure we get that in the books. Living Stones make the Bears great again. Is that how this works? We need an attorney. We need a patent attorney so we can get this going.
Do we get to have like the hair out the back of the hat?
I don't know. You tell me. You guys are Bear fans. So I'm a football agnostic. Yeah. I used to.
Hey, you need to be revived now because the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I could.
Come on, they're in the championship of the NFC.
Yeah, I like the it used to be the Redskins. Now the Commanders, right? Now Redskins is like, no, you can't talk about the Redskins anymore.
I think that the Redskins, the Indian tribe that represent, they're actually fighting to get the name back. They don't think it's insulting. It's just liberals who think it's insulting. They're actually fighting to get the name back.
Yeah, but then I realized the city they represent is totally
might be an uphill battle.
Not my. Of course, you guys have Chicago, so who are you guys to talk? Anyways,
but we're Bears. All right, pick on that one.
Okay,
right?
okay, fine. What were we even talking about?
I don't know.
So we're talking about leadership. Because I'm agnostic, when I hear all these things happening,
you're an agnostic.
No,
what are you doing on our team? If you're an agnostic.
I'm a football agnostic.
Don't spread rumors. That is not true. About
I have no loyalties. I don't really football agnostic. I don't really know.
Agnostic.
Like someone said, "Oh, we're going to do great this year." I'm like, "Are you though?" So don't talk to me because I'm just going to be like,
you cannot come over and watch football with Matthew and I until at least halfway
I jump on the
season.
Bandwagon. They start doing well, I might consider. So
don't jump though in Chicago until at least week 8. All right.
That's what I'm saying. So when you tell me about this new coach, my first thought is like, but he's a good leader. Can he manage the locker room? He's going to micromanage the new offensive coordinator.
If we have something to cheer about past Game 5, that's a success.
All right, you're going to watch next football season.
Yeah, if we're like 3-2, that's a major success. So anyway,
I'm just tired of seeing my friends so heartbroken. So that's my thing. Anyway, leadership, strong leadership.
Yes.
Back to the topic.
I was sitting watching the inauguration, and I just cannot help but see strength, clarity of purpose, a man who knows the mandate he's received, from the American people, and we have probably lots of impressions about that day. But one of the favorite things for me was to see that he actually started business in the arena full of the people. He started signing executive orders, and this is a very ceremonial thing. They do it in the White House, the Oval Office. They got all the senators and speaker of the House, and all the bigwigs are there, and then they have a bunch of these pens. So after he signs all the different copies of the executive orders, then like if I'm the president, I'm handing you one of these pens because it's a collector's piece. It's something special.
It's a valuable pen. Yeah.
Well, so here's Trump, and he's signing these executive orders, and he's tossing them to like normal people sitting in the audience. To me, it was such a powerful picture of somebody who realizes he is there on behalf of the American people. And as he likes to point out, the super majority of American people. I mean, he won the Electoral College, and he also won the popular vote, and he won all the swing states. And I mean, so bottom line is he realizes he has a mandate, and each of those executive orders is a reflection of his campaign promises. So he's enacting these things, he's signing them, and then he's tossing these incredibly valuable pens to the very people, the common person who he's listening to and whom he's representing. It was very, very symbolic to me, and I know that wasn't done to as some symbolic gesture. I think Trump's just being Trump, but he trusts people. Some of the people that he had up, to speak at his rallies, they were blown away. They were asked that day, "Hey, Andrew, come up and say hi." What? You want me to come up at a rally in front of thousands of people? He just extends trust in those situations. situations, and I think people are shocked by it, and they love it, and they rise to the occasion.
It seems very genuine. It's not like it's not all produced. Reminds me a little bit of our Sunday service sometimes. You're like, hey, you just share the story with me. Come on up and tell it to the whole congregation. They're like, okay.
Maybe I need to start handing them a Livingstone's pen.
You start signing executive orders on Sunday morning and throw the pens out. We'll eliminate that Livingstone DEI program.
No, but you bring up a good point, because I think people value authenticity.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to see everything staged, everything scripted.
Backdoor deals. It's just like, no, we're doing this in front of everybody.
But even there, I think that's part of Trump's draw, is he is unscripted. I mean, much to the dismay of his handlers or whatever, a lot of times he goes off script and he just talks to people.
His first administration, him going off script was attack and vilify. And I'll be honest, back then, because of how I was wired, I had this impression how president should be, and I was kind of looking down for some of these very authentic, raw moves he had. But like I think later he went to either Oval Office or whatever office signing EOs, and there was tons of reporters there, and he's just joshing back and forth. He's signing these, he's talking, they're asking questions. They're like, hey, did Biden leave you a note? Did you see that saying? He's like, wait, let's check. Doesn't he normally in the desk? He opened the desk. He's like, there it is. He's like, thank you, Peter Ducey from Fox News for letting me know this could have been here for years. Just going back. He's like, let me read. You know what? Let me read it first before I let you guys. I mean, it just comes off very genuine, at least.
Well, and his honesty and transparency, which is his strong point, can also be used as his weak point. Some people feel he's abrasive or whatever. Yeah. But here's the point: like, you could not even get Biden to do a press conference like live. Yeah. And now you look, President Trump's walking away after some meeting, and someone says, "Hey, what'd you think about, the prayer meeting?" Which we should talk about that. My goodness, we got this Episcopalian lady who is as leftist as can be, pushing the very ideology that just lost the Democrats how many seats? I mean, it's this radical LGBT, transgender ideology that people have had enough of. I mean, we've had it literally shoved down our throats. We've been canceled. We've been fined. We've been told we can't say certain things. We've been told we must use certain pronouns. I mean, people are tired of this crazy leftist overreach. And then this is what the president and his family have to be subjected to. Talk about being totally out of touch with reality. And so they just asked him, hey, what'd you think of the service? It was uninspiring. It was boring. She did a terrible job. I mean, here's a guy that's being unfiltered, and he's actually answering your question, which is something we did not see. And I just want to let our listeners know we will not be inviting her to speak at Livingstone's.
We're taking her. She was on the invite list. We're marking her off after that.
Nor will she ever be on the invite list. My goodness. Lord help us.
I cracked up. I didn't watch the whole. I just watched the clip. And I don't know, it was one of those cases, you and I talked about one of our pet peeves, is when a pastor's invited, or anyone's invited to say a prayer, and you start preaching a sermon instead.
As the Bible says, and you give a 3-point message. All they want you to do is bless the chicken.
I always thought, man, and you're a pastor's kid. We've been around so many pastors, like both you and I. There are times you're watching. I remember watching a Zoom call, and someone asked them to pray, and they just started preaching a sermon. You're just like, Pastor, just pray.
Well, my dad. Okay, so I grew up in just the opposite of all that. When you ask my dad to pray for the food, he's like, Father, thanks for the food. Bless it. Amen. Yeah. Everybody loved my dad's prayers because it's like, we're here to eat, all right? We're not here to...
That's my style, right? I'm going to thank the Lord. It's not time for me to, pontificate on whatever. Anyway, so that's the first...
Yeah, so the opposite happened with her. She used it as a chance to push a radical leftist agenda on sexuality. Anyway. Bad leadership there. But back to Mr. Trump. I just love the way from day one after this inauguration, they have a very clear agenda. They know what is important, and man, did he act with swiftness. Even before there, I want to go back just to Indiana for a moment because our Governor Braun, also did the same thing after his inauguration. One of the first things that he did was to sign an executive order eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion practices from state government. And it says here, the Chief Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity Office in the governor's office is hereby closed. Former Governor Holcomb created this position as a cabinet-level office and paid the woman holding it $100,000 in salary. So again, this is what we're sick and tired of. We have a Republican supermajority, and then we have our previous governor playing these kind of games and creating this position. And so Governor Braun says no. He says Indiana will no longer require a state employee to participate in any training, instruction, procedures, or programming if they endorse preferential treatment of one person's particular race, color, ethnicity, or national origin over that of another. In other words, let's create an even playing field. And the echoing again what our president is doing, we should be hiring the best people, the brightest people, the people most qualified based on merit, not based on any other determining factor. Well, like who's the best for the job?
And what this does is this type of department, going to biblical worldview, going to worldview perspective, is a subtle plant for divisiveness.
Well, it's reverse racism too.
It's saying look for things so that you can be a victim. Look for these items because, to someone who maybe have never experienced that, they don't even think about these issues. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist, but when you're like, look for these things, all of a sudden you're in tune to make everything about, oh, they don't like me because of my sex. They don't like me because of my race. And what that does is it causes a toxic culture environment and is divisive.
Well, with zero accountability, I think this is especially on display in California. We have a white governor and we have a black mayor of Los Angeles, and both are highly incompetent. Both should lose their jobs. But it's interesting, the mayor makes a comment while the city is burning down, while there's no water in the reservoir, while there's terrible policies, while the forests have not been maintained. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. While budgets have been cut and key emergency personnel have been released, she makes the comment, and when being held accountable, it's really tough to be a black woman. Like, okay, what does a black woman have to do with any of the issues that we just brought up? Like, none of those issues. Like, the reservoir was empty. That has nothing to do with the color of your skin. But when you create DEI and you create CRT and you create all this stuff, then that's exactly what happens. You immediately pull out the race card and you become a victim. It's like, okay, we got to stop this. It doesn't matter what color you are. You're here to lead the city, and you're here to make sure you protect its people and run the city well. So I'm glad all this stuff is being ripped out. I'm glad it's being ripped out. And again, I just want to bring this up. Some people are saying, oh yeah, here's this executive order, but behind the scenes, they're still going to keep doing whatever it is they've been doing under a different name. So I think we got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of accountability to do. We need to get this ripped out of our public high schools and public schools in general, out of our public universities.
Yeah.
This is poison, and this has been destroying and dividing America.
I think you made a great point. Like, in many ways, this is just the beginning.
Absolutely.
I mean, I saw executive orders being released about freeing the J6 prisoners, and people were taking those orders to prisons, and these people were not complying. These prisoners were not. And again, I don't know specifics, and I won't speak on maybe whatever, but my point is, just because the executive order has been ordered does not mean there's an execution from top down to all the areas.
Well, and this is why, again, we're going to see, I think, sparks flying. We already saw that Tom Homan on the border security and everything. Trump, I appreciate that. Trump said we're going to deal with the crisis, at the border. This is where I think people get a little bit frustrated. So I see Rachel Maddow in one of her segments mockingly saying, "Hey, we've got our reporter at the border. Is there a national crisis taking place all around you?" Well, the guy's standing at some place where nothing's happening, and basically trying to say that there is no border crisis. We all know there's a border crisis. People have been, the border has been porous. People are coming in. We know how many have come in. We've seen busloads of illegals dropped off in certain communities at nighttime and just left there. I mean, we have an incredible border crisis. The American people recognize this, and we still have the mainstream media, in a sense, doubling down on this ridiculously failed agenda, as if the American people are stupid, which is why MSNBC has almost nobody watching it right now. I think viewing's down 50% of an already abysmal record of people watching. So anyway, I think people are sick of this, and I think eventually, as we start moving forward, yes, there's going to be lawsuits. Yes, there's going to be the groups. Did you see the group that had to go stand at Lake Michigan and scream to let out their primal anger? So they're just going to scream. Like, oh, that's really great. I mean, I hope these folks just finally get some help, because these are the kind of folks that have been in charge and kind of running the show. It's great to have a leader back in Washington. It's great to have somebody that actually knows how to govern and has an agenda and knows what they're trying to accomplish. But I think, as we pointed out, the battles are really, in some ways, just beginning. And a lot of this is going to go to the courts and will probably go on for years and years and years. Let's talk about something else that opens a really scary precedent, and that is all these presumptive pardons. Why, from a biblical perspective, why should every believer be concerned about what President Biden did as he's getting ready to leave? Some pretty notable presumptive pardons. Like, even that idea, let's talk about presumptive pardon. It sounds like somebody's guilty of something before they've even been investigated.
Right. So the power of pardon is, you committed a crime, I'm going to commute your sentence, clemency. I don't know all this legal difference, but pardon is, you committed a crime, you're pardoned from the crime, and, you go free. Like Nixon was pardoned by...
Yeah. Nixon's already been guilty from crimes at Watergate.
He was impeached, he probably going to die, he was pardoned for that.
And again, back to the Nixon situation, part of when presidents have done this is they've said, look, in that situation, it's time for our nation to heal.
Yeah.
This was a president, made a bad call, he got caught, owned it, left the office in disgrace, but let's not compound the situation by throwing him in prison and locking the key, locking the prison door and throwing away the key. Yeah. Let's let the nation begin to heal. Okay, you might not like it, but at least you understand it. Yeah. These people that he's pardoning, like his family, the general who presided over the Afghanistan debacle, where billions of dollars of U.S. military equipment, plus the loss of life, unnecessary loss of life. We got Dr. Fauci, who should be held accountable for the millions of lives that were lost during COVID ineptness. These people haven't even had their time in court yet. They haven't even had a chance to be investigated for what they've done, and now we have a president who's saying, oh, they're already innocent. If you ever want to do that, they're already innocent. You can't do it.
So you would think the consideration, if someone says, hey, Andrew, why don't you pardon somebody? The consideration would be like, well, what did you commit?
Yeah, pardon them from what?
What crime did you commit? Let me look at the case as a president. There's the vested power for me to investigate what's going on. But when there's no investigation and you just pardon, now the rationale, the reasoning is, oh, they will be targeted politically by Trump. Therefore, but again, that argument is dangerous.
Well, let's back up.
Okay, yeah.
They're going to be targeted by Trump for the same thing that you yourself just did to Trump, right? I mean, you're afraid he's going to use the power of government to go after you. Oh, like you guys just did for the last 4 years to him? So
the Democrats has opened couple Pandora's box. The first Pandora box is, I'm going to target, use the legal weaponized weapons legal system to target my political enemies. This is like Marxism, like third world country, scary stuff that opens all kind of Pandora's box. Now they open that box, right? And now they're like, oh wait, they're going to use it against it, because that's exactly what happens when I bring a knife to the fight. Next time you bring a gun. Like that's why don't open that box.
And then I bring a gang.
Then you bring then you bring a shotgun. I bring a machine. But what they do is to preemptively guard against the political targeting. Is they open this other Pandora box, who says, I'm going to pardon people before any crime. I'm going to issue these immunities even before this is established.
So think about this. If this flies as a precedent, And then you have someone becomes president, and they decide, I'm going to use this office to become rich. I'm going to make sure all my family members are getting kickbacks on these deals that I make with foreign powers. I'm going to set up all these shell companies to hide the money and launder the money. But before anybody gets called out on it for doing an illegal crime, I'm going to give them all immunity from a really wide time period, like happened with Fauci, and again, Biden preemptively pardoning his whole family. So when people like Trump talk about the Biden crime family, he's being accurate. Why does your whole family need a pardon unless you have been guilty of committing crimes against the United States of America, treason, and abusing a position of power to bring wealth and to steal resources from the American people, and to absolutely use that position for personal gain, which is illegal. You can't do this kind of stuff. If you did this in the private sector, you would be guilty of fraud or all kinds of things, extortion, and you would be thrown in jail. So again, this is very, very dangerous kind of waters to be treading in, because it basically means you're going to be opening the door wide to all kinds of corruption. Just cheat, lie, steal, and then as soon as the president leaves, he just gives you a get out of jail free card.
Right. So if someone was guilty of mass genocide, for example, and they did an investigation, they find out what happened, okay, and then you as a president says, I'm going to pardon that, you're going to have some kind of kickback, a pushback from the media, from different parties, from the people that you represent, saying,
absolutely,
yeah, I could pardon them, but it's going to look really bad for me.
Yeah.
The crime hasn't even been investigated yet. So he wants all the credit of pardoning without the pushback of the potential thing. Now, I hope, first of all, you and I talked about that this is actually unconstitutional. The Supreme Court has something to say about that. But secondly, I think these guys need to still be investigated, because what happens, what their potential crimes are, needs to be displayed for the whole world to see, because this kind of stuff can't be.
Well, I love again what President Trump did when he revoked the clearance, security clearance from the 51 people who lied about. They were all in the FBI.
They knew
lied
it
about
was
it.
True. Yeah.
Yep. They lied about it. They deceived the American people. So again, that's called accountability.
Yeah.
Now, they may never go to a court and be convicted for what they did, but at least Trump, that was an act that said, what you did was lie to the American people.
Yeah.
And I think the American people appreciate that. That's one level of accountability. Yeah. I do think the Supreme Court or some high court's going to need to rule on this whole issue, because it's gotten blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
Not to mention the absolute violent murderers. People on death row for committing heinous crimes, and Biden issues a pardon to these people. What are you, all out of the principle of the death penalty, right? And this is exactly where these people should get a death penalty. We're talking about murderers, rapists. What these guys did was horrific. And to pardon them is such a travesty of justice. I don't believe that's what the presidential pardon was used for. And I think it needs to be defined as we move forward. Like, what is the purpose of this? So that it cannot be abused, and as you pointed out, open the door to all kinds of corruption and stuff that there's no accountability for.
And our worldview says human beings have a fallen nature. And when the door has been broken, the Pandora box, when it's opened, you can't put it all back in. It takes a tremendous amount of power to put that, all the junk back into the box.
Absolutely.
And the last several years of this administration is they've been breaking boundaries. And from a biblical worldview perspective, it's like, this is not good, because the lack of accountability is going to come back and haunt us.
Yep.
From the collusion of the media, the big tech, whatever, with the governmental state, it's, again, no lack of accountability.
Well, and I'm glad, sometimes the wheels of justice, as it said, grind slowly, but they do grind forward, all right? A lot of these major legacy media outlets that were slandering President Trump, accusing him of things that were not true and never were proven in a court of law, they got lawsuits slapped on them, and they're losing. And MSNBC's in a lawsuit right now. And I hope, again, sometimes money speaks loudly. to these corporations that, you can't keep lying, cheating, deceiving, colluding, all the things that we've seen. And again, we barely had a chance to get into a lot of really, really important executive orders. Maybe we'll pick that up on our next podcast. But there's just, I like to say this, there's a new sheriff in town. And our enemies globally are aware. Our enemies economically are aware. We got so much to talk about. No more World Health Organization nonsense that's used to attack America or release our sovereignty, nationally. Yeah. I mean, my goodness. I like I said at the start of this podcast, I'm almost giddy with excitement because we finally have a restoration of common sense and a strong leader and a new sheriff in town that's going to do what he said. And I hope there's a lot of exposure to all this corruption and the bad guys end up going to jail. And again, we just have a revival of common sense in America, leading to economic freedom, and in Trump's own words, a golden age of America. And I think we have the right leader to make it happen. So anyway, we'll get into this in more detail. Let me just mention a couple of things. This Friday, we have an amazing event called Fam Blitz for parents and children. I think we've got over 500, maybe approaching 600 folks planning on being in attendance. I think it starts at 6:30 to 8, I believe is the time on that. But come on out. A lot of exciting things happening here at Living Stones. Also, our State of the Church will be this coming Sunday night, which I encourage everybody to come out and be a part of that. We're going to highlight all that the Lord has done in 2024 and be sharing some exciting news about how we're moving forward for 2025. So anyway, thanks so much for watching and spending this time with us. We love you guys. Appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you next Thursday.